Good morning, everyone. I would like to welcome you to the monthly Transit Choices meeting. It is our pleasure to have you with us today and share a part of your day with us. My name is Robin Budish. I am the Executive Director. The mission of Transit Choices is to advocate and fight for an improved, multimodal, safe, efficient, equitable public transit system for Baltimore and beyond. We also have with us this morning Jimmy Rouse. Jimmy is a co-founder of Transit Choices. So with that said, I would like to kick off the meeting by introducing our guest speakers for today's meeting. We have Stu Sirota. Stu is the Deputy Director, Planning and Sustainable Transportation. Sean Burnett is the Chief of Planning, and Brett Thorne is the Chief of Transportation Services, all with the Baltimore City Department of Transportation. So good morning to you, guest presenters, and the floor is yours.
Thank you, Robin. I'm going to share my screen. Give me one moment. Let me start my presentation first. I just need to have multiple screens here. I want to make sure I do the right one.
Sure.
Okay. One moment. Okay. All right. Can everyone see my presentation?
Not yet.
Not yet. How about now?
Yes, there we go.
All right.
Success.
Well, thank you, Robin. And I have to say, it's really fantastic to be here. I was thinking, it doesn't seem like it's possible that it's been nearly a year since I was here last. And it's been an extremely busy and productive year. Very excited about everything that's been going on and looking forward to sharing all of this with you. So let me advance. So I have been with Baltimore City DOT now for just about 18 months. And the focus that I've had in the short time has been on the strategic hiring and capacity building side. When I took over last May of 2023, I was sort of in the post-pandemic period. DOT had experienced a lot of turnover. We were understaffed. There were a lot of projects that had been paused and put on hold. And so I was very keen on really, fixing that trend and getting things moving and making hires. And we're now, after 18 months, really in a much better place. We have hired many new people, and you'll be hearing more about those folks here shortly. The other big focus has been on grants. We've been applying for and winning major grants at the federal and also state level. And then thirdly, winning those grants and then executing those contracts and then starting the actual work has kept us very, very busy and will keep us busy for the next several years to come. So I'm one of 4 deputy directors within the agency under the leadership of Director Johnson. The other 3 deputies are administration, operations, and engineering and complete streets. And I've been very fortunate in that we've been able to reorganize this year and bring on our 2 new chiefs who are here with me today that you'll be hearing from shortly, Sean Burnett and Brett Thorne. And we'll be talking more about what they do here shortly. But back to the grants briefly. I think everyone knows about the West Baltimore United Project, also known as the Highway to Nowhere. DOT won a planning grant from FHWA last year. And this year we have really started the project out with public sessions and visiting workshops, and we've stood up a stakeholder work group. And this some of the images that you can see here from these meetings in the last year. We are in the process right now of hiring our consultant team to carry on the next phase of the work going into 2025 with our major concept development phase of the project, which will start in the new year and will run through the entirety of 2025. We expect to wrap up the planning phase of the project by the end of 2025. Um, uh, We've also just recently applied for a next round of grant monies for this project. It was an opportunity that we didn't want to miss out on. And even though we're still in planning, we took the input that we received up to this point, and we put a very strong package together of construction ideas and concepts that are still very much a work in progress. But for the benefit of the application, we showed various concepts for the US 40 corridor, including a highway cap shown here on the left, and then on the right, showing sort of renderings of what it those that cap might look like if you're actually on the sort of ground level. So it's the idea of putting a lid or a cap that would become a public park and a plaza over the US 40 trench. And it would be a high quality plaza. It would be done seamlessly with the planned red line. There was a planned red line, stop in the area about halfway along the US 40 corridor. And this is how it could potentially look. We still have a lot of work to do over the next year, but we're feeling very confident and optimistic about our chances for winning this next round award. And then finally, I mentioned the other grants. So this is a list of the grants that we have won in the last year, almost $34 million. I think when I was here last, I mentioned our Safe Streets for All grants that we are still getting under contract right now. And we are working on our Safe Streets for All action plan that we won last year. And the outcomes of that plan will feed right into the next phase of this grant into 2025 and 2026. We also applied and won another US DOT FHWA Reconnecting Communities grant, this time for Druid Hill Park. We had done a complete streets project in 2021, and this was the next phase. So this is a $6 million grant that would carry this project forward. And then also just recently won a $15.5 million FHWA RAISE grant for the Hanover Street corridor and bridge. That's something that has been talked about and looked at for many years. And we're really excited that we finally got the funds to see the engineering as well as NEPA work to get that process moving. And then other federal and state grants that will help us advance our Greenway Trails network, which you'll be hearing more about from Sean here in a few minutes. And that's probably a perfect segue to hand off to Sean, our new planning chief, who just joined us at the end of September. I guess, Sean, I'll stay with the control of the slides unless you want to. Okay, that's all right, Sean, take it away.
Great. Thank you, Stu. So good morning, everyone. I recognize a few of the faces on here. So to those who don't know me, I guess we can go to my introduction slide. My name is Sean Burnett. I previously held a number of transportation positions. I was the Commissioner of Transportation with the City of Toledo, Ohio. I was an active transportation manager for DDOT in Washington, D.C. And then for the last year, I've been the Assistant Deputy Mayor for Economic and Community Development. Transportation planning, transportation policy is my passion. So I'm really, really excited to be back in the cockpit, as they say, over here in BC DOT. I manage, or I am the chief of the planning division. The planning division, as some of you probably know, oversees the city's creation and implementation of all plans pursuant to transportation. So we work very closely with the HCD, with the Department of Planning, with Economic Development, with all of these different city agencies in refining plans, beefing plans up, and then also creating implementation plans for these. I also manage the active transportation branch of Baltimore City, as well as the Towards Zero and Complete Streets initiatives. I think the next, oh, great. So here are some of our new planners. Some of these are going to be old faces. Some of these are going to be new faces. Stu's done a great job in the last 12 months of trying to cobble together what was something that frankly had a lot of vacancies, but we're getting up to full strength now. A lot of talented, young, excited, passionate planners, really excited to be kind of spearheading this team, working with them to try and, get some of these projects done and make the city a better place. I think I'll talk a little bit about some of our core initiatives for 2025 for kind of the thrust of our project base. Right now, we are finalizing our HIN, our high injury network. These are some of the takeaway slides from our Complete Streets report this year. We're also still finalizing our SS4A action plan. The SS4A action plan is part of our Towards Zero initiative. It's going to create a roadmap for us as we move into the next couple of years towards that 2030 goal of zero fatalities. It's coming up sooner than you think. And so we have a lot of work to do, but we're excited about the process. We're also starting something a little bit new this year. We have requested some capital funds to kind of re-kick off a community level intervention and quick build program. One of the challenges that BC DOT has had in the past, which has been a product of both funding and personnel, is creating these sorts of initiatives that other cities have been doing for some time within their Towards Zero or Vision Zero initiatives, where we're identifying problematic corridors, whether through our high injury network and other institutional plans, or through community engagement and direct community concern, and then remediating those dangerous circumstances through quick builds. So that's something that we are really happy to double down on this year. Expect to hear more as the year progresses. And then finally, we are working on our Complete Streets communication campaign. This is part of our kind of Towards Zero package. This is going to include a lot of kind of qualitative work, educating the public, bringing people's attention to, frankly, the dangerous patterns of behaviors that some of you may have noticed, during COVID, post-COVID. We're living in an environment right now that seems very scary for people who are, paying attention to transportation. So this is part of one of the very many things that we're doing in order to try and make the city a little bit safer. I think we can go ahead to the next slide. So I think what I'll do is, this isn't an exhaustive list of projects, but this is kind of a highlight reel, some of the things that I think are particularly exciting that we are committing to this year as part of our work plan. One is the Old Town Mall. We are coordinating with DHCD and HABC as part of the PSO project. That's the Perkins Somerset, and the O stands for Old Town. Some of you may remember Old Town. You may remember Old Town before its current state. As part of the PSO project, the developers, as well as the city, are hoping to revitalize the commercial corridor. They have some investors from related to the PSO project DOT has been tasked with rehabilitating the right of way. Currently, we are reinstating, or the concept showed the reinstatement of a single lane of traffic in order to give some of the businesses loading access. That's been a complaint in the past by some of the property owners. We're also going to coordinate with DPW to do some of the utility work and phase that with what will be a complete reconstruction. Right now, the concepts we have through some of the community engagement and some of the design process has us creating, some of you may be familiar with this term, but a WUNERF. This is kind of a term for a living street or a curbless street, meant to encourage incredibly slow vehicular traffic, giving the attitude that vehicles are a guest in the space. In some ways they are a necessity, but we want to make sure that we're focusing and highlighting pedestrian safety, pedestrian access, multimodal access, and a very active streetscape to support these businesses. I think we can go to the next one. Another large project that we are progressing this year will be the MLK Side Path. The MLK Side Path is going to run north to south from West Reed Street to Russell Street, and then from Russell to West Austin, and from West Hamburg from Russell Street to Utah, and so this is going to be, we're advancing to 90% designs. We have 30% designs right now. The goal of this is to reach 100% and move to construction sometime by 2027. This is a large project. I can tell you from my experience working within the mayor's office, as well as being a cyclist in the city, having this connection specifically between kind of the Station North and some of the facilities there, all the way down to the stadium area, is going to be a very exciting development as we work through this project. Right now, there's a number of smaller issues that we're attempting to remediate. Part of the project scope will be trying to save as many of the historic trees as possible, creating a safe crossing. As you know, that there's a lot of cross streets that run along MLK that see a lot of traffic, high volumes. So we're going to be doing some intersection safety treatments in order to make the facility as sustainable as possible. But we'll have more news as the year progresses. Next is a big one, our Baltimore Greenway Trail Network. This has been a long road. We are chugging along. This is a massive undertaking on behalf of the city. We have a lot of stakeholders in this, both city and outside of the city. Right now, a couple of the highlights: the 33rd Street Greenway is being progressed this year to 100% design. That will cover the portion, I believe, between
Did we lose Sean? Hold on.
Sean he's still on the call, but he lost his audio and video.
Okay. Let's give him a moment.
Yeah, I'm going to text him and see if he's aware.
Okay.
Otherwise, we can go on to Brett and maybe circle back to Sean.
Sure.
Sorry, everybody. I think my browser crashed. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Anyway, I apologize. 33th Street Greenway. It'll go from St. Paul to Hillen. This project will, in the 30% design, shows the trail running down the median for the majority of the 33rd. And then because of some routing challenges with the Hillen intersection, we're going to be moving it to the north side of 33rd for the last couple of blocks. This project is going to create that access to the reservoir to try and connect some of our already existing road networks and and we're really excited. The grant that we're pursuing for this project, we haven't won it yet, so that's a disclaimer. But it has a lot of exciting aspects to it. There's some additional pieces that if we pull this money down, we're going to be really excited to talk about. So that's kind of a sneak peek, a little preview there. We're also working on the Highlandtown Greektown connection. That's the northern Suffolk portion, that greenway that runs north to south on the east side of the city. We're working and coordinating with the Department of Planning on acquisition. I'm being told that we have a number, and that the next step is going to be getting to that number. It's a big number, but we're working internally to try and figure that out. And once we do, we're gonna jump on it and try and progress those plans as quickly as possible. Boston Street. Boston Street's another large part of our network. It has been determined that it does not have potential conflicts with the potential red line. And so we've been given the blessing by MTA and MDOT to continue with our designs. So we are progressing forward to reach 100% designs with the plans for construction in 2026 or 27, depending on funding. And then the Middle Branch segment is also being progressed this year from 30% to 100%. And so that's a connection, again, on the east side of kind of the stadium area up to Light Street and some of the potentials there. I think we can go to the next slide. Washington Ave is another large project this year. BCDOT is progressing the 30% plans that are existing for the bikeway to 100%. The proposed facility is 2.2 miles long. It goes from Sinclair to Alisana, north to south. The 100% designs and the construction will include updates to ADA ramps, intersection treatments, some signal work in order to make this bikeway as safe as possible. But we're really excited to kind of create this couplet between Maryland and Washington Ave to try and continue developing our active transportation network. Right, so this is kind of just, I have only been here for a short while, but we have a lot of exciting things coming up this year. We're working on a number of kind of internal pieces, focusing on trying to streamline our project delivery efforts, streamline the ways that we interact with the communities, try and create some more stability within planning to create an entity, frankly, that's capable of moving these things forward quickly, effectively, and predictably. So with that, I'll go ahead and pass it to Mr. Thorne.
Brett, do you want to advance your own slides, or do you want me to do it?
You did a great job with Sean, so you can continue piloting if you're good with that.
You got it.
Cool. Thanks, Stu. Thanks, Sean. Hi, everybody. My name is Brett Thorne. I joined DOT as the Chief of Transportation Services back in March, and we can go to my introductory slide here. So I joined in March 2024. I actually was looking at the calendar, and yesterday was my 8-month anniversary in the position. So they haven't fired me yet, so I'll take that as a vote of confidence. I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. Before joining DOT, I worked at WRA, Whitman, Reckart & Associates, based here in Baltimore. I had a few different clients, but kind of one of the big ones was Baltimore City DOT. I remember on my first day at WRA, I got pulled into a meeting discussing the city's transit development plan. So I ended up getting very involved in kind of the TDP process, and helped put that plan together. And now it's cool to be kind of on the other side, helping to implement that plan that we were talking about all those years ago. Just a little bit about the Transportation Services Division. We oversee the city's contracted transportation services. So that includes the Charm City Circulator, the Harbor Connector, the Dockless Vehicle Program, which is the rentable scooters and e-bikes that I'm sure you've all seen. We also have a position that's kind of focused on promoting our commuter benefits programs, the Maryland commuter tax credit, things like that. We also have the Dockmaster's office, which I'll touch on. We have an exciting update kind of toward the end of this presentation. Stu, we can go to the next slide. So the first kind of branch of my division that I'll talk about is transit services, which seems appropriate for this group. We have the Charm City Circulator and Harbor Connector, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. We can go to the next slide. So in August, we hired Scott Fox to be the city's new transit services administrator. Scott kind of oversees the day-to-day operations of the Charm City Circulator and Harbor Connector services. He's also working a lot on TDP implementation stuff. Before joining DOT, Scott worked with Mead and Hunt as a transportation planner, as well as working with the Memphis Area Transit Authority as a transit planner. We are definitely keeping Scott very busy. Happy to have him on board because we are in the process of implementing some of those TDP proposals. We also have some bus stop improvement work that we're starting on. We also have some ADA improvements at the Harbor Connector landings, which I'll touch on here in just a bit. So happy to have Scott on board. I hope everyone in this group is aware that back in June, we introduced a new route on the Charm City Circulator, the Cherry route. This route, as you can see on this map, connects the Cherry Hill community in South Baltimore up with Locust Point, Riverside, Federal Hill, and then the downtown area. Just kind of a quick sort of snapshot of Cherry Hill. I kind of called out this stat here. 47.5% of households do not have access to a car in this community. So that kind of highlights, I think, what a vital asset transit is for Cherry Hill. And we've seen really strong positive response since we introduced this route about 4 months ago. And Stu, you can hop to the next slide. This just has the ridership. I think I pulled this last Friday. This has the ridership for the entire system. You can see the purple and orange routes are kind of the heavy hauler services. But the Cherry there in the middle is already the third most popular route in the system. And we anticipate that number to continue to rise as more people kind of become familiar with the service. We are on pace this year for about 1.4 million rides, which is going to be a nice increase over last year. And just kind of calling out here, the green route and the orange route, we have some planned improvements on. We're still kind of working through the feasibility of those, which I'm going to touch on the next slide. So we anticipate ridership should continue to improve on those two as well. So Stu, you can go to the next slide. This map, I apologize, it might not be the easiest to read, but I'll kind of walk us through it. We have the orange route and the green routes are shown on this map, as well as sort of what we're proposing, what was proposed within the transit development plan as changes to these routes. So the proposed changes are the kind of dotted lines, and what's currently being run is the solid line. So on the orange route, which is the sort of east-west connection through downtown on the system, the changes that we're proposing are going to add service to Harbor Point, which is a big deal because I'm sure you've all been down there. Development is booming down there. T. Rowe Price is moving into their new headquarters down there. There's all kinds of activity happening there. So we're going to be adding service to Harbor Point. The Perkins Homes project, which Sean kind of touched on as part of the Perkins Somerset Old Town project, that's going to now have two-way service. So if residents in that community want to go south to Harbor Point, or if they want to get kind of plugged into downtown, they'll have bi-directional bus service there. The new orange route is also going to serve Lexington Market, which we're very excited about. That's one of my favorite spots in the city. And then the green route here, if you can see, currently the green route is sort of, if you're downtown and you want to get to Johns Hopkins, you have to sort of do this little jog down President Street, then over to Fleet Street, then down to Harbor Point, and then you start heading north to get up to Johns Hopkins. We're going to kind of make it a little bit more of a direct connection. What we want to do is run service along Orleans Street and then kind of get right into the heart of the Johns Hopkins campus, and then it'll go up North Broadway Avenue up to North Avenue. So we're working through kind of some of the logistical things with those two route proposals, where a stop's going to be located. Can the buses make these turns? Still kind of working with DOT leadership to hammer out some of that stuff. But those are some of the TDP implementation changes we've been working on. And then For the Harbor Connector, we have a lot of exciting stuff going on with the Harbor Connector. In 2022, we were awarded $5.1 million of grant funds. That's going to help us design and build 2 new ferries to replace a couple of the ferries in our existing fleet. And it's also going to fund ADA accessibility improvements at the landings. So we're very excited about that work. And we are currently working with engineers to kind of finalize the designs for both the new ferries as well as the landings. So we can go to the next slide. We have a lot going on in transit. I wanted to make, I think when I first put this together, this section was about 10 slides. And I understand we all have other things we have to get to today. So tried to pare it back. Just want to touch on some of the other exciting things that we have going on though. We're in the kind of early stages of a transit equity gap study, which is going to look at how we can improve our transit and transportation network to better provide access to livable wage jobs for Baltimore City residents. We're also working on procuring 8 new buses for the Charm City Circulator fleet, which I'm very excited about. And then over the summer, we were notified that we are receiving a $3.5 million grant to purchase 3 new electric buses for the circulator fleet. So we're sort of working through some of the infrastructure questions and operational issues around implementing electric buses, but that's another thing that we're very excited about here. And we can hop to the next slide. So getting into the dockless vehicles, again, these are the rentable scooters and e-bikes I'm sure you've all seen. We can hop to the next slide. In August, we hired Tyler Smith to be the city's new dockless vehicle program manager. Tyler has a lot of experience working with kind of micromobility and docked and dockless vehicles. He had previously worked at the Capital Bike Share program in DC, and he led the installation of 200 bike share stations throughout the district. So if you've ever used DC's bike share program, you probably have Tyler Smith to thank a little bit for some of that. He's really hit the ground running. We've also been keeping him busy. Just in his first couple of months, he has updated the dockless vehicle inspection kind of regime that we use to make sure our permit holders are abiding by rules and that the vehicles that they're putting out on the street are rideable and safe. He's updated the criteria for reviewing dockless vehicle operator fleet increase requests. He has also assisted in onboarding the city's newest dockless vehicle permit holder, which is a company called Lime. We can go to the next slide. This is just a little bit more about the program. We currently have 2 operators in the city. We provide permits that allow these companies to operate. And when they come into the city, they agree to abide by our rules related to vehicle inspections, where they're deploying their vehicles, how they're deploying vehicles, that kind of thing. So we have Spin and Lime right now. Between those 2 companies, we have about 4,000 scooters and e-bikes available for rent in the city. And just want to kind of on that point, the vehicle utilization that we're seeing is really high, which is a good thing and kind of indicates to us that there's demand for whether it's kind of first mile, last mile stuff, or just using it as a commuting tool. These dockless scooters and e-bikes are definitely serving kind of a niche need in the city. And last year we had 1.5 million trips on the scooters and e-bikes. So we're anticipating that number continuing to trend up as well. Go to the next slide. This is how we're looking so far this year. So far, as of, I think this was pulled yesterday, we had a little over 1.4 million rides. So we're on pace for about 1.5 million. That's going to be about 125,000 more rides than what we saw last year. We can go to the next slide. Just a couple of things that we're working on with dockless vehicles. I mentioned Tyler's been doing a review of some of the vehicle inspection criteria and the different sort of rules that we hold the companies to. We want to make sure that we're very clear and not ambiguous about what we expect from the companies if we're going to allow them to operate in the city. So we're sort of doing a holistic review of those rules and regulations. We're also looking at strategies, trying to kind of be creative for ways that we can use micromobility, use scooters, e-bikes as tools to reduce congestion and traffic in downtown Baltimore. And finally, we're working on developing a service request in 311 that will allow, if you see an illegally parked scooter or e-bike on the street, if it's blocking a sidewalk or something, you'll be able to report it in 311, and then the company will have to resolve that issue. So kind of giving residents a little bit more power to keep an eye on these programs. We can go to the next slide. Transportation marketing. So this is our position that's really kind of focused on promoting generally our sustainable transportation programs, but really focused on carpooling, van pooling, commuter benefits, programs like that. So we can hop over here. And in August, you'll notice I'm saying in August a lot, we hired, I think 3 of my team members were hired in August. So we've had a lot of new faces here, including Anaya Smith, who we hired in August as the transportation marketing coordinator. Anaya has been super helpful with a lot of things, but at its core, her kind of focus is our iRide program, which aims to encourage the use of sustainable transportation modes, bicycling, walking, car, van pooling, micromobility, and transit, and things like the Maryland commuter tax credit, some of the kind of benefits that employers can offer to their employees to maybe incentivize fewer single occupancy vehicle trips, and more carpooling, van pooling, whatever the case may be. We can go to the next slide. These are just a few of the things that Anaya is working on. She's organizing our Bike to Work Week 2025 efforts, which I'll touch on the next slide. She's also managing our commuter programs, and she's done a really good job of creating a social media presence for the iRide program. We actually did not have any dedicated social media accounts for iRide previously. So we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on X or Twitter, whatever you want to call it. And if you want to search for us, it's Balt iRide, just like what's shown here in this graphic on the right. Give us a follow. Anaya's very good on social media. That is kind of some of the stuff that Anaya's been working on. And then we can go to the next slide. Bike to Work Week 2025. This is one of Anaya's big focuses in her position. It's kind of helping us organize Bike to Work Week. That's going to be May 12th through 18th. And it kind of culminates on the 16th. Usually the mayor and some dignitaries do, a ride into City Hall, and there's kind of a celebration and that kind of thing. So Anaya's kind of helping us organize that and get businesses, institutions, other partners kind of involved. She's currently working with Johns Hopkins to get them to kind of be involved in the effort as well. We can go to the next slide. Dock Master. So this is a position that has been vacant for a few years at least. And we are very pleased to announce that we have recently made a hire for this position. We can go to the next slide. I guess it was about 2 or 3 weeks ago, we hired a new dock master. We're anticipating him starting this coming Monday. He brings a lot of experience into the position. We're not going to quite tip our hand yet with who it is until he's actually in the seat. But he has committed to starting on Monday. We're thrilled to have him on board. And basically what this office is going to be focused on is kind of helping to coordinate the inner harbor docking activities when tall ships come to visit, and we need to work out, where they're going to be docking at what is a city-owned asset, the promenade and some of the different piers and things around the inner harbor. The dock master is going to kind of help take point on that, as well as things like Fleet Week, kind of organizing the logistics of that, celebration. They'll be very involved with those kind of things. And then also charging transient boaters who are pulling up to the inner harbor, to go get a meal or catch a show at the Pier 5 Pavilion. We actually see this as potentially a revenue generating position because we're going to start charging boaters to dock at piers. So that is the dock master. And then I think I have one more slide in here, kind of a plug. Just wanted to mention this. You may have heard about the city's e-bike voucher pilot program. In September, we created this program that allows Baltimore City residents to apply for vouchers worth $750 to $2,000. This helps them cover the cost of a new electric bike from one of the 3 participating local bike shops, which are shown here. We have Baltimore Bicycle Works, Trek, and Joe's Bike Shop. So the application for that program went live in September. We closed it in October and sent out vouchers. We sent out 50 vouchers to kind of the winning applicants. We did like a random lottery to randomly select some of the applicants. And so far, about 3 weeks into the program, more than a third of the vouchers have been redeemed. We've gotten really positive response from applicants and the winners. So we're very excited about this program. And basically, the idea is to promote, healthy lifestyles, active transportation, reduce greenhouse gas emissions, reduce congestion, and then also promoting our local bike shops, our local businesses here. So we're very excited about that program. And I think that is my last slide.
Wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you, Brett and Sean. Great job. I'll just wrap up before we go into questions and answers, just to say that, so I hope this gives everyone at least some sense of the sort of highlight reel, as Sean put it, I think, about what we're doing. There's really much, much more. And like I said at the outset, we've really been in a rebuilding phase, and now we are shifting more towards the actual implementation side of things, and we feel like we're in a very good place to do that, and we're excited about what we're going to be able to achieve in the months and years ahead. So thank you all for this opportunity, and now we'd like to maybe either turn it back to Robin, or we'd love to entertain questions.
Thanks, Stu. That's great. Thank you, Brett. Thank you, Sean. Really excellent presentation. Now we have the gallery so I can see everyone's smiling faces. If you have questions, comments, feedback, you may either raise your hand or put something in the chat. There was so much to sort of digest here. So what I'd like to do is kick off the Q&A with John.
Is that me, John?
Yes.
Hi, Robin.
Morning.
Thanks, Stu. I mean, the city's lucky to have you and the energy you're bringing. And,
Thank you, John.
It's as you say. I mean, I think
All
we
of
all
us
recognize that you've needed to rebuild, and you've made some great hires here. So I think we're poised, but of course, people are impatient. I know you are. And I saw, for example, Greg's comment in the text, which is like great planning. When are we going to see some new bike lanes? And I have sort of a different version of that question, which is, what is the status of the city's bike master plan? Are we going to update it? And obviously, we don't want to waste time updating it if we're not going to do it. So, it's a question of getting to implementation. When I chaired the bike commission for years, the question I always asked DOT was, can you give me a schedule that says we're going to do these projects on this schedule, with this money, subject to these caveats? And the last one was important because, for example, if it said we're applying for a grant, you don't get the grant, then perhaps you get a caveat. But some sort of coherent overview that kind of says we're going to do these things over this schedule, so that there can be some sense of anticipation and accountability and expectation about how this is going to roll out, would be really, really helpful. And I'm just sort of wondering when we might be able to sort of get an overview of kind of what you're doing. And I'm just going to tag one other question onto that, which is kind of the opposite end of that, which is the city's commitment to maintenance of existing facilities, which is something I've been concerned about. Not only is it a matter of plain safety and all those kinds of things, but it impairs our ability to do new stuff if we're not taking care of the current stuff, because people then say, well, why should we give you new toys to play with when you can't take care of your existing ones? And for people who are not as encouraged as we are and enthusiastic as we are about new bike facilities, it's really hard when you face that, when people say, why, like, take a look at this thing. Why should we do more of that? So I'm just wondering if you could address both that sort of forward-looking thing as well as that snapshot issue of maintenance and care for existing facilities.
Well, John, thank you for those kind words. I'll start, and then I'll hand it off to Sean also, who may have some other things to say. But I think, what we've been trying to emphasize is that we are in a transitional, or were in a transitional phase with me coming on board last year and sort of building a new team. Sean has just been here for just, a little over a month or two. He's still getting his legs under him. He comes with great energy and great ideas. We are of sort of a single mind on many, many things. And we're very eager to, move the ball forward on not just getting projects built, but also, process change too. And so I would absolutely say that in the coming year ahead, in the coming months ahead, even, we will be instituting new process changes to get to those sort of things that you were talking about in terms of certainty and schedules and all of those sort of things. So that rather than things that may have been in the past done in a more ad hoc way, things are becoming much more structured with a work plan that will be published and shared so that I'll let Sean talk more about that in a second. But I guess on the follow-up part about maintenance. So just frankly, our reluctance really weighed into that. That's not really in my portfolio. I absolutely think that your comments and observations are valid, but I would probably defer to others not on this call about those issues. So I'll just leave it at that for the moment. But I do want to give Sean an opportunity to sort of add to what I've just said about the sort of planning aspects.
Yeah. It's a big question, John. So it's something that I know that you and I have maybe talked about in the past. We're in a tough spot. I'll be very candid, maybe too candid. I didn't inherit a lot of 100% plans. We are working from a little bit of a deficit. We are focusing right now on streamlining our project delivery. DOT has struggled in the years past with developing a well-organized project delivery process. And that's one of the key highlights. I think one of the key reasons why we brought me on. Right now, we're finalizing a lot of things. We're going to put our pipeline together. We're going to start putting those documents together in order to be more transparent, in order to be more predictable. And we're going to start stacking these things up and building them as fast as possible. So I know that that's not a complete answer, but we should have things coming out in the next couple of months that will clarify kind of where we are at in the process and exactly what our intentions are. But that is absolutely a priority for us.
Thank you. Robin, do you want to facilitate who gets called on? I see lots of hands raised.
Sure, I'm happy to do that. Klaus?
Yeah, it's great to see that DOT is getting restocked. This is like a whole pool of new young agile fish in there. So I'm really optimistic that now we are seeing real action. One thing other than on grants, there wasn't much talk about money. And I know, for example, that Washington, D.C. has abandoned their circulator. Now we are expanding our circulator. We are expanding our boat service with new boats, new buses. So if you could talk a little bit about where the money comes from and what the challenges are when maybe money coming to the city from Washington is curtailed in the coming administration.
Yeah, that's a tough question, Klaus, but it's one that needs to be asked and one that needs to be contemplated. I'm not sure that we have all answers at this moment, but I think that and we are entering uncertain waters, obviously, going forward. I believe that our funding stream for the Charm City circulator is in good stead now, and we will just continue to operate in a lean way and as efficiently as possible. And we'll be looking at all options going forward for various funding sources for the things that we want to do, and we will certainly adapt and adjust based on the realities on the ground. So I think that things will start to come into focus in the first half of calendar year 2025. We should start to see what the sort of mood in DC is, and we'll, like I say, just deal with it. Brett might have a little bit more to say about sort of existing funding on the Charm City circulator and the other services. But I'll let him feel free to jump in.
Yeah, thanks, Stu. Thanks, Klaus. It's a good question, one that we certainly are thinking about. I'll add to kind of what Stu said. We received 5307 formula funds, and the state kind of has their way of divvying up that money. In the past, we've gotten less than $2 million of formula funds from the state each year. In fiscal 25, so over the summer, we were notified we're getting about 25 to 30% more funding than what we've gotten in the past, because what the state did, they kind of reimagined the formula that they use to divvy up those funds among municipalities, and their new formula kind of takes more into account things like equity, need for transit, that kind of thing. So Baltimore scored very favorably, so we ended up with more money, and we're working with entities like the Transportation Association of Maryland to kind of try to help lock in funding going forward and make sure that money can at least maintain a baseline, if not, rise in the future. But that is definitely a concern of ours. But recently, we've just gotten the good news that we're actually getting more money than what we've received in the past from the state. So I just want to add that.
Thank you. Richard, you have a question, comment?
Oh, sure. Thanks. This has been a great presentation. I really appreciate it. I'm serving as the transportation chair for the local Sierra Club, just to tell you where I'm coming from. One of the things that I noticed in the presentation was about the grant program for electric vehicles. And it seems to me that people might opt for bicycles are more popular than electric bicycles. So it seems that that should be an option for that program. That's my comment. And I don't know if this is the right venue for this, but it would be great if we had a way to, like ferries for pedestrians, bicyclists to get to the Eastern Shore, maybe Rock Hall or someplace like that. So that's all I have to say. Thanks.
Thank you, Richard. I'm guessing that you're aware of the ferry study between Baltimore and Point South along the bay.
I wasn't, but that's good. I'll look for it.
There's a major effort underway. It's a consortium of counties throughout the Chesapeake Bay area to initiate a high-speed ferry service, for numerous points on the bay. But the starter link would be between Annapolis and Baltimore, and so funding is being sought for that now. And in fact, we're going to be meeting with the sort of organizers of that in the next month to look at possible ferry and docking sites in our area. And I would imagine that whatever plans come online, we would be looking to integrate our multiple modes with that. So as a sort of first mile, last mile effort, that once you get on or off the ferry, you can board a scooter or a rental bike or transit. So, but this is still sort of early days on that. So I just wanted to mention that. But again, I'll sort of let Brett answer the sort of first part of your question again.
And that was on wanting bikes to be like regular pedal bikes in addition to electric bikes. Was that kind of the the idea of
Yeah.
voucher system. Yeah, I mean that's a certainly a good point and something maybe to consider in the future if this program does continue. I think the idea with the electric bikes was part of the aim of the program was to replace vehicular trips with e-bike trips, and so certainly you can replace vehicular trips with a regular pedal bike. I biked into work today on my regular old pedal bike. But if you're going, let's say you're taking, your kids, you got to drop them off at school, or you got to do like a 10-mile trip to your work, or go get groceries, things like an e-bike with like maybe a cargo rack can kind of help with some of that stuff. So that was kind of our thinking, but I do understand your point too about regular bikes being viable options as well.
I want to add too, there are a lot of great organizations in the city that work with specifically low-income communities to try and subsidize or donate bicycles. So the bicycle itself is not the expensive part. E-bikes tend to be much more expensive and much more attractive to a certain subset of our population that has mobility issues. But yeah, we definitely have a lot of great non-city partners working on distributing those sorts of that sort of economic benefit.
Thank you. Sue? Sue?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you to Robin and Jimmy for hosting this Transit Choices meeting this morning. And thank you to Stu and team. This is good. I do have a question regarding the sidewalk project for making them ADA compliant. And how soon does that start and how long will it last till completion?
Can you be oh, sorry, Stu.
No, Sean, go ahead.
Well, just could you clarify exactly which, are you talking about citywide, the ADA compliance kind of process, or are you talking about a specific project?
Well, it was just in the news that the city has dedicated $44 million to making sure that this project starts due to a lawsuit. So my question, I'm a pedestrian and live in the city. It's important.
No problem. So the city has been had ongoing ADA compliance work going on for quite some time now. This was due to a federal audit of our infrastructure, I believe in the early 2000s. So we've been working on this for a long time. What's happening now is that the city is doubling our financial commitment to updating our right-of-way. So we have a long list of intersections, of curbs, of sidewalks that need correcting. And we are pushing very, very hard to try and bring the city into a more walkable, more accessible, friendlier place to walk. And so you'll hear more about that as the year progresses. I believe they're kind of intaking these locations from older studies, from community engagement, from 311 requests. It's a massive undertaking. We got a lot of sidewalk in the city. That's not something that is particular to our group. That's I believe, and Stu, maybe you can help me with that. We have an ADA division, compliance division that is facilitating this work with our contractors and with some of the city workers. But we are certainly doubling, some would say tripling, our efforts at improving these particular pieces.
Thank you. Jim?
Good morning, Stuart. It's really terrific to see what you're doing. I've followed your career for many, many years, and this is really a nice capstone effort for you, and I'm proud of what you're doing. I wanted to ask some questions about how you feel about the support you're getting from the economic development side of the various interest groups around Baltimore to sort of push push some things a little more robustly. I'm particular. I think the particular thing I'm thinking about is the highway to nowhere, which may be one of the biggest economic development opportunities the city has in front of it right now, in terms of further out into the future. But can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, thank you, Jim. It's really great to see you. And I thank you also for those really kind words. From an economic development standpoint, well, first of all, I would say that, me being here for 18 months, I feel like I'm just now coming up for air and had to focus on those certain things that I mentioned earlier. But having also, during that same period, making many observations and looking and sort of identifying opportunities. And now that we have Sean on board, who up until recently was the assistant deputy mayor for economic development. It's so great to have him here, as well as Brett, who's also of a very similar mindset. So I feel like we're going to be turning our focus to those sort of issues going forward now that we have some breathing room, even though things are exceptionally busy. We do want to build our relationships and sort of like talk with other groups and outside parties about all those things. In terms of the highway to nowhere, we are going to be, like I said earlier, kicking off the sort of heart and soul of our planning process after the new year. And we're going to be drawing in many different parties and stakeholders into the process, some of whom are already really engaged and really eager. But I think that there'll be greater opportunities as the process unfolds over the next 12 months plus. So that's sort of my short answer. Sean, do you want to take any more?
Yeah. No, I think speaking directly to your question, one of the main mechanisms or primary mechanisms in which we can leverage our access, frankly, to private markets is through the TOD process. We, the city, have spent a lot of time in the last 2 years trying to align our TOD efforts, not only with best practices, but also, frankly, the state. MTA and MDOT have shown a resurgence in interest in kind of expanding our TOD designation, coordinating with the city, the comprehensive master plan, land use plan that the city's Department of Planning has engaged in, specifically calls out TOD, opportunity zones, to try and align some of the land use and zoning prescriptives to create or at least capitalize on TOD opportunities. In the last couple of years, we have highlighted or gotten new designations for a number of areas, West Baltimore being one of them. So I think when you talk about how do we leverage these opportunities within economic development in order to spur the market to kind of meet us where we're at and foster some of these environments, TOD is really where we're headed in the near future. And I think we've got some really exciting opportunities coming up.
Thank you very much. That's a great answer. I like it.
Yeah.
Well, yes. So I'd like to just keep, my eye on the time. We've passed 9:30. I know that we could probably speak with everyone for the next hour. But what I would like to do is I will send the meeting chat to our guest presenters, and recognizing their busy schedules, when they're able, if they can respond to me with some responses to the questions or feedback they receive, that would be very, very much appreciated. Jimmy Rouse is going to provide the closing remarks, but what I would like to say personally is that how grateful we are, Stu, to you and to your amazing team. It's so wonderful to put, names with faces, but also just to applaud, your commitment to excellence. It's been a long time that we've been talking about a number of these projects. As you know, Transit Choices has been in this arena doing advocacy work for over a decade. So it is extremely rewarding to hear that the many things we've been talking about all these years are either in the works or, perhaps close to, coming to fruition. So we thank you so much for the dedication and hard work. Jimmy, would you like to provide the closing remarks?
Yeah, I want to thank the presenters, Stu and Brett and Sean, for excellent presentations. I want to congratulate Stu on rebuilding a department that had kind of become a black hole. And it's really exciting to see all these new hires. And I want to congratulate Sean and Brett and all the people working with him on taking on so many projects, which are so exciting to us. As Robin says, we've been advocating for a long time to improve our transit system, and you all really are working on it and in a significant way. And I also always like to thank all the people who tune in to these sessions, because by tuning in, you're actually advocating for better transit. And that, because it enables us to attract presenters like this and have great conversations like this. The more of you, the easier it is for us to attract. In the future, we're going to hear from Mike McDaniel, who has great ideas about how we can expand and combine our harbor connector and water taxi systems and into one system, which we've always promoted as an idea. And in addition, we're going to get people from the Greenways Project, to give us further details, which are all the exciting things they're doing. So these are the kind of conversations you all are enabling us to have. So thank you very much for those who tune in, and thank you so much for the work you're doing, Stu and Brett and Sean.
Well, Jimmy, thank you so much for all of those kind words also. And we feel very gratified by hearing all this positive feedback. We know that sometimes our jobs can feel a little bit thankless, but we are extremely passionate and dedicated. And I feel like we're just getting started now. And so we look forward to coming back sometime in 2025, and there's going to be a lot more to share, a lot more forward progress. I know we didn't get to answer a lot of the questions in the chat. We will definitely follow up with that and write answers, and I will probably follow up with some other individuals myself, just to reach out and thank you all again. This has been really, really wonderful.
Well, on behalf of Transit Choices, we wish you and yours a very happy Thanksgiving. And we also hope you have a wonderful day. Stay tuned for an announcement regarding our last meeting of the year next month. But with that said, thank you all. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.